This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
This is Everything Elite, the world's best podcast devoted exclusively to All Elite Wrestling and the Elite Extended Universe. I'm Aaron Bentley. I am joined, as always, by my good friend, Mike Spears. What's up, Mike?
Hey, y'all. It's your old pal, Iron Mike Spears. I'm doing all right. I'm down at the compound where I found a machete today, and that was pretty exciting. It was something that longtime followers of Spears Innovations and Spears Industries knows that 2019 has been the year of Iron Knife Spears, but sadly that's coming to a close. But I kind of exited this year, AB, without having a machete, which was my number one goal. Remember, that was early EE canon where I think her role was the director of content. Kara said I should get a machete, and I never ended up getting one, but my parents had one somehow because they live in Florida and you just find things like machetes in the lawn. So that's what I've been up to. That's how I've spent this most recent holiday. How are you, AB?
I'm doing all right. I'm trying to get a lot of work done in preparation for Tokyo. I had a brief due on Monday and I shit the bed and had to ask for extra time to do it. So I'm just finishing it up. Probably going to finish it in the morning. So that's exciting, but I got a lot more stuff to do. Someone else who I know doing a lot of work in preparation for Japan. It's Nate, aka Epitasis. What's up, Nate?
Yeah, man. Hi, guys. I'm fucking fried. Just too much work. Trying to set up my office to do 2 weeks of my work here in the next day now. Very stressful, extremely stressful. I complain a lot about traveling because you end up doing like 3 times the work just because you have to compound it into 2 periods directly proceeding and preceding your travel, and it's a big hassle. But I am glad that this is such a long trip that I'll be able to like forget it and just like marinate in a long extended time without work. I'm even kind of looking forward to the plane flight now because it's like I'll be fresh off having no work. I will watch like 4 movies. I'm just gonna like veg out. I think it might be okay. I might survive.
My number one goal is to not think about work on this trip. I want to think about it as little as possible.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if that
I
works.
think I'm gonna not check the email.
Yeah.
Have faith in my coworkers and colleagues to take care of shit. I did. I came out to my boss today and said that I'm going to Japan to see Japanese professional wrestling.
Wow.
He was like, "Oh, like sumo wrestling?" I was like, "No." Like, you silly man. So that seemed to go over okay.
I hear people say that like they get that reaction a lot when they say they like Japanese wrestling, but no one has ever said that to me after outing myself as a Japanese pro wrestling fan.
I'm guessing it's an age thing. I think people older than us, probably would not even consider that to be a thing, would be my guess. Whereas, sumo is a classic tradition.
Sure. And like, is sumo in the Olympics or did I make that up?
No. There was a talk about it being an exhibition event. It's not going to, but the big thing was that the greatest of all time, Hakuho, wanted to make it to the Olympics because he wanted to be a torchbearer, and it looked like he succeeded. So like that's the part where it is. And I don't know if they're going to be doing events at Sumo Hall. They are definitely doing events at Korakuen. Korakuen, of course, was like the home of Olympic boxing the last time the Olympics were in Tokyo.
I'm very excited to see like Olympic stuff set up. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much there will be. Do they add skateboarding? Because I know they were talking about skateboarding. It will be an event. That's dope.
Yeah, I think surfing is added too.
Ariake Urban Sports Park, Tokyo, Japan, July 24th. Olympic skateboarding. Got to get Darby in there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure you're going to, if you listen to this show and you're a patron, you're probably going to hear a lot about our trip to Japan. So we will not stick on that any longer. Here's what you need to do. Follow us on Twitter at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. Go to our Twitter account and you'll see all those. Someone was telling me they could have never guessed how to spell Epitasis. It's right there in the bio, folks. You just click on it. It's very easy. Subscribe to the podcast, please. And by the way, just because Nate and I are going to be gone, the show will continue. Iron Mike Spears is going to be here with some guests, bringing you free shows the next 2 Thursdays without us.
Yeah, I'm the designated survivor. It's just like that they're having the State of the Union address. I'm the one that's going to be in my bomb-proof bunker in the heart of the Appalachian foothills. So I'll be here making sure that the content still flows through the Voices of Wrestling podcast account and then also our Patreon as well. But it's not just going to be me doing some Patreon stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be coming out in the month of January on Patreon.
Yeah, the fucked up thing is, speaking of designated survivor, is that Nate and I are on the same plane. So, I mean...
Oh, no shit? Y'all are on the same flight?
Yeah, at least going there. So 2/3 of the podcast could perish on this trip.
I was making a joke, and now I feel really self-conscious about it. So,
nobody else saw Nate's face when
it's fine. As long as it's quick, that's fine. Whatever.
Absolutely. All right.
Probably not quick, though. It's probably a lot of terror in the
yes
events preceding. And you know how time slows down, like right before you're in a car crash or something? I feel like when you're in a plane crash, probably time goes real slow.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is I'm deathly terrified of flying on planes. And
well, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm already considering all these things, so it's fine. But yeah, it's going to be bad. Hey, rate and review the podcast if you're on the podcast app. Here's what we're going to talk about on this show. We're going to do a little year in review. We're going to do awards talk. We got a lot of awards lined up, and we'll kind of tell you how that's going to go here in a second. And we got some news bits to get to. I know the AEW Revolution sold out. We'll probably talk about that. The records are resetting in January, the one-loss record, so we'll talk about that. Before we get into it, I got to plug, of course, patreon.com/everythingelite. This week was Stardom Week, baby. I did Stardom Status, where I broke down what's been going on in December so far. Did a preview for the Korakuen show, which already happened, but you may not have watched it yet because it's not online yet. And I did a Stardom Primer with Taylor Mainborg, getting you up to speed if you're new to Stardom or if you are wanting to get into it. It's an exhaustive primer on what you need to know about the history of Stardom and what's going on in Stardom today. On Wednesday, Wrestling Small Business Tyrants with Brian Quimby, talking about Gabe Sapolsky. We moved that to the $3 tier. So only $3 will get you that episode. Next week, Nate and I are going to do a Wrestle Kingdom preview, as well as other shows we're going to in Tokyo will be previewed on there. I'm sure AEW Light will return next week. And Light is now going to include rankings discussion because rankings are coming out on Wednesdays, just so you know.
Yeah, it's going to be a big old exhausted pregame show. Originally, it was supposed to be 10 to 15 minutes each Wednesday, but now this is going to be like a goddamn morning show. I will probably watch BTE. I've decided that Light, while y'all are gone, is just going to be solo Mike Spears time. So
yeah,
it's going to be like morning drive time radio. So get ready for it. If you are a $3 subscriber, get ready for just probably a real big mess happening next Wednesday as I figure it out as I go along. It will be entertaining. I could promise that at least.
And I'll just say, if you're a patron in December, you've gotten 9 bonus shows, 3 episodes of AEW Light, and of course, we do the run sheet for this free show each week and spreadsheets. Although now that I say that, I haven't updated my TV appearances spreadsheet in a couple of weeks, so I guess I got to get on that. Sorry, patrons. I don't think anybody's paying for that. It's okay. Patreon.com/everythingelite. We've got a tier for every budget. All right, time to get into it. I want to start, we'll do this briefly before we get into the awards, but kind of just some overarching year in review thoughts. Nate, do you want to get us started with just kind of like your big takeaway from the first year of AEW?
The first year of AEW is, despite all the discourse and despite all the quibbles about, maybe the product doesn't exactly match up with everyone's, dream product for a new American Major League pro wrestling promotion. The wrestling business and especially the Western wrestling business, especially the American cable television wrestling business, is infinitely improved as compared to this time last year when there was no AEW on television whatsoever. And for that, this isn't Thanksgiving, but we should be thankful that there's a pro wrestling show that you can watch on cable television on a weekday night that doesn't make you want to gouge your eyes out.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty salient point, that I think that we're actually coming up, and sadly y'all be away for it, where we had our first episode of Everything Elite, and we talked about like what were our big hopes for this promotion, and it kind of was a way of us like framing how we were, what kind of guys we were watching wrestling, and what we were hoping from what a potential competitor to WWE would be. And for me, I feel like one of my big hopes was having a North American major wrestling show where I didn't feel like my time was wasted. And it was very nice to have now we had the preseason shows, of course, like Double or Nothing, Fyter Fest, Fight for the Fallen, and All Out. But Dynamite has turned into one of the breeziest wrestling watches since I could remember. Like every Wednesday, I get ready at like 7:45. I plop down in front of my couch most nights, and I just get to watch like a 2-hour wrestling show where I don't feel like my viewership's taken for granted. And if not everything has been like exclusively my cup of tea in pro wrestling, but I feel like that we've seen now that there's at least an alternative on Wednesday nights that's wrestling that's not insulting either the viewer or the viewer's time commitment that they give to the program. And I think we've been very fortunate with that this year. That's been probably my biggest positive takeaway.
Yeah, I did this take a little bit last week, so I won't do it at length, but it's like it started with Double or Nothing, which I think was just an outstanding show, one of my favorite shows of all time. And the more recent TV episodes I've been more down on, but the thing that AEW has that WWE doesn't have or NXT doesn't have is that I still give them the benefit of the doubt on that. I think they can pull this back together. Not that it's like falling apart, but I still think, as Tony said on Twitter recently, that they can learn from what they did in 2019. Obviously, anything that's brand new is going to have hiccups and starts and stops. I trust that they realize that what we see as hiccups are hiccups and that they can correct those going into 2020. I know there's going to be stuff on the show that I don't like. I mean, it's a wrestling show. There's going to be stuff that they think is good that I don't think is good. But I trust that they're going to be able to get it to a 2-hour program that I enjoy watching every week. And it doesn't just feel like I have to watch it for this podcast. So it's been a fun first year. And I'm a little bummed I'm going to be missing the 1-1 show. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm sure I will watch it when I get back. So, all right. Here's what we're going to do for awards. We've got several categories here. This has kind of exploded from our original thoughts on what we were going to do here. But here's the idea. Each of us is going to nominate one nominee for the category. Then we're going to try to form some consensus on a fourth nominee. Then what we're going to do is post a poll on our Patreon for our patrons to vote for the winner in each category. So once this is up, you can go to patreon.com/everythingelite. The polls will be there. If you subscribe, you can be a voter. That's it. Quick point on that. It's the very end of the month. If you subscribe now, you'll be charged when you subscribe. And again, on the first of the month, we won't close voting. I'm sure we'll leave it open at least a week. So you can wait until the first of the year passes and subscribe.
Yeah, I think at least we'll probably have it open until y'all get back in town. I think that's a fair thing to do so we can talk about it. And I know we talked about doing an award show like where we read the results or we talk about the results on our Patreon. So at the very least, this will be not just this week. It will be something going forward. So expect it to be I'll probably try to get this thing up. I mean, outside the show for this weekend, but it'll be going up into 2020. So no immediate rush, and you will have reminders for our patrons. And if you're someone who wants to hop on and vote for it, we haven't discussed what category and what tier it's going to be on for voting, but we'll figure that out and we'll make that very clear. $3 tier. I think I'm cool with doing $3 tier for this. So yeah, $3 tier. So everyone who is a patron will have the opportunity to vote for this.
That's right. We are leftists here. We believe you should only have to pay $3 to vote. That's a core part of our political beliefs. And we're also taking suggestions for the name of the awards. I was thinking maybe the Gabies, maybe the Elites. The Tonys is already taken. The Codys is a little funny, but just because he's already got that Y right there in the name too. But yeah, any suggestions for the award names? Hit us up.
The Buckies, after the great truck stop in Texas, and the Bucks. The Buckies, maybe.
Oh, the Young Bucks, right?
Yeah, there we go. You thought I was
Sure.
just making some Texas reference. No.
I didn't know
two
where
and
you were
one.
going.
2-1, baby. 2-1.
Was there already something referred to as the Elites, I think?
Not that I recall.
Okay. For some reason, I just thought that had been done. But perhaps it just shouldn't be done, and that's why I was thinking
That might be the true
That's
answer.
what-
Yeah.
But that's what we're going to do here. So sign up. You're hungover on New Year's Day. You're not making great decisions. Run over to patreon.com/everythingelite, subscribe, and vote, baby. Okay. We're going to start with, so for the ones that are more wrestling centric, we're going to do men's and women's awards. The rest of them are going to be gender neutral. So here we go. Men's match of the year. Nate, I'm going to start with you. Give us your nominee for men's match of the year.
Oh, okay. So this is going to be interesting because it's kind of strategic in that we each have a nomination. So if you use your nomination on a obvious selection, then you're kind of left out in the cold as far as trying to get a deeper choice added to the ballot here, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So, if I was playing strategically, I might pick my personal match that I would like to see on this ballot, but might not otherwise make it. That match would probably be Jericho versus Darby Allin from Dynamite Philly. However, I'm going to play honorably and engage in good faith here. And I'm going to nominate the probable best match out of this promotion for most people. And that would be Cody versus Dustin Rhodes from Double or Nothing.
That makes things very interesting because I feel like that would have been AB's top choice easily for the men's portion of this category. Okay. All right. You're going to pick that one. I'm going to pick a match that I'm nominating myself. This was from Boston's episode of Dynamite. It kicked off the show, and I think that when we talk about the tag team division, this kind of is the golden standard of a non-gimmicked 2-on-2 match, and I think that's the Young Bucks versus Private Party from Boston Dynamite on October 9th.
Great choice. And it also points out to me that I went back to check my spreadsheet for matches to add to this, and I realized that I've clearly just forgotten some because that obviously was an excellent match. It should have been on there. I would have chosen Cody versus Dustin. That is a top tier match of the year for me. If Momo Watanabe did not exist, it would probably be my favorite match of the year. But she does, so it will not be. See, this is hard because do I want to nominate another Cody match? My next favorite match is probably Chris Jericho versus Cody from Full Gear. But I hate to see Chris Jericho versus Darby Allin left out, as Nate pointed out. So I'm going to nominate Jericho versus Darby Allin from the October 16 episode of Dynamite.
Something
That was great. We just we traded basically our nominations because that was the one I really wanted. But I did, as I mentioned last week, was on the Wrestling Omakase show where I basically did AEW awards on there as well. And Cody versus Dustin was my top pick for that. So I feel like I had to engage honestly here with our listeners and patrons and pick that one. So yeah, now we've got to come to a consensus on a fourth match. We've got some suggestions here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any Moxley representation. We don't have any Omega representation.
No Page.
No Page, no Pac. All four of those people had singles matches against each other. Had some other great Young Bucks matches that have been in this promotion. Anybody want to make a case for one in particular here?
Well, one I didn't list, just if we're talking about people who got no representation, would be the Omega Pac match from All Out. I think that's at least one that should go on the long list.
I would also say Moxley versus Omega from Full Gear. Probably it would not be one that I would argue for because I that's not my kind of match, but I feel like that's something that would at least make the short list. So I feel like if we're going to like have to keep everything with some sort of integrity, we have to include that match as well, even if that's not a match that I personally would choose.
I think so. Among the other ones we have here on our long list, the clubhouse leaders for me are probably that Jericho versus Cody match from Full Gear. Thought that was very compelling with Jericho busting his head open, and then the post-match angle with MJF, of course. The other match that really like blew me away in this promotion was Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks from All Out. The ladder match that I had was basically dreading watching because I was over ladder matches, and then it just, like I said, blew me away. I also did super like that Full Gear show with Adam Page versus Pac. I think that was both of their best matches in this promotion. I wasn't super high on the first Omega versus Omega versus Pac match or the Omega versus Moxley match. So I don't know that I would pick those. I think if I were to pick a top Moxley match, it might be that Darby Allin match from Dynamite. I'd throw my hat in the ring for Jericho versus Cody or Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks.
I actually, now that you're mentioning it, that Moxley versus Darby match might be, if I was going to do rank choice for my number 4, that might be my number 1 the more I'm thinking about it. But I'm going to argue for Pac versus Omega for a second from Full Gear, just because that was Pac's first match in the promotion. It definitely set him up as the kind of player that he is, introduced a new edge that people that were following him in Dragon Gate were not used to. And it kind of set people up to temper their expectations on what Kenny Omega would be going forward in the promotion, as my parents' dog just starts barking off into the background. What's up, Foster? Yeah.
I kind of like their Dynamite match better. Having seen both of them in person in the same building, I like the Dynamite match more than the All Out match.
But I'm going to push forward Darby versus Moxley at Dynamite again. I think that's going to be my wild card pick that's where my brain is going.
All right. Let me jump in here. I like a lot of the matches you all have pointed out, but you cannot tell the story of the first year of AEW without Chris Jericho versus Cody from Full Gear. It was a huge part of the early Dynamite. It's a great match. It's got moments that you will remember. Cody busting his fucking head open and bleeding all over the place, and the MJF turn. I love
great build.
Yeah, the build. I think we're going to talk about that later. That's where I've got to go for my 4th pick.
I can get behind that.
Mike, can we get you on board? We're horse trading here.
Yep. You know what sold me on that? When you brought up one of my favorite phrases, which is telling the story of.
Oh, yeah. I think I stole that from your Twitter today.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's me lamenting about the impending retirement of the speed star, Masato Yoshino, who hashtag have a catch Yoshino. Let's get me to go have a catch with Masato Yoshino. Let's go, Twitter. Let's do this.
Absolutely. All right. Next up, women's match of the year. Same thing. I'm going to start with Mike this time. Mike, what's your nomination for women's match of the year?
I'm just going to clear the board right here by picking the obvious one and making everyone else from here. We're going to have to think a little harder. I think that the obvious number 1 pick here is from Double or Nothing, which is the 6-woman tag match between Hikaru Shida, Riho, and Ryo Mizunami versus Aja Kong, Yuka Sakazaki, and Emi Sakura. It kind of set the tone for what the women's, kind of an aspirational tone of what the women's division should be in AEW. And I feel like that for a lot of people, this match was not topped in 2019. So I feel like that we should just acknowledge this match and now move on and talk about what should be the other 3 matches to go up against it. Like, let's just clear the board here. Okay.
Did that match happen? I thought he got pulled from the show. I thought he got canceled.
I see what you're doing. I mean, there's certain discussion in Irish wrestling Twitter about a certain match not happening, but apparently it did. So just everyone consider who you follow and listen to about AEW rumors and who has been making up just complete whack bullshit the entire time.
I don't know who that might be. Nate, your nomination?
So that was, I believe, my top women's match on Wrestling Omakase, as previously mentioned. So I think I will select my next most favorite, which I think is the next women's match in the promotion. The triple threat, I believe, from Fighter Fest of Riho versus Yuka Sakazaki versus Nyla Rose. The thing in particular I remember about this match is Nyla doing her awesome knee drop off the top rope, and all the video game pros in the first row just fucking losing their mind and standing up and absolutely going wild for this match. So yeah, I'm going to pick that as the second nominee.
And it all comes down to me, the guy who said that the AEW women's division is just as good as the NXT women's division. Unfortunately, what AEW did with their excellent women's division is not have a lot of great matches this year. Those were, the two best matches so far, for sure. Now I've got to come up with a third one here. So you could go Riho Nyla Rose. That's the very first TV women's match. It gives you the title match there. Nate's just added Riho versus Shida. I was the only person who did not like that match. I thought it was fine. I'm worried that recency bias is making me kind of lean toward Chris Statlander versus Hikaru Shida here. I think I'm going to go chalk. I'm just going to go Riho versus Nyla Rose from the October 2nd episode of Dynamite, the very first episode.
Okay, that's interesting. I think that's a legitimate choice. I feel like that if we are going to talk about a possible 3 or 4 match kind of story that they're telling, it obviously started at Double or Nothing and ended with Nyla Rose versus Riho in DC at the first episode of Dynamite. So I think that's a solid choice for number 3, but this is a hard one, I think, for what's going to be our consensus pick. The one that I'm going to throw out there, and I know you said recency bias, I think Chris Stat versus Hikaru Shida might have been the best women's match they've had in the last 2 months. And I think it did a great job of setting up Statlander as this rising young star. Of course, we'll see her versus Riho in Jacksonville, but I think it also, like, in a way, kind of like gave a roadblock to Hikaru Shida, which is going to be really interesting to see because she's not been on TV since then. And it'll be interesting to see, like, after a month break, how she's going to kind of strike back from there. So that's the first one I wanted to put out for discussion as our consensus pick. What do you guys think about for a consensus pick?
Yeah, I would get behind that one. I think probably want to have a Shida singles match among our contenders here. That was a match that I was at, and my opinion of it may be colored by the fact that I was sitting with a Hikaru Shida fangirl who was going wild for her the whole time, and it was very entertaining. So yeah, I could definitely get behind that one. As you noted, the other one that jumped to mind was Riho versus Shida from All Out. I think that was maybe her other standout match.
See, if I was thinking Shida singles, the Shanna match from October 30, that's the West Virginia match, which is like everybody thought, oh, this is going to die a death, and the crowd really got into it and loved it. So it has kind of a warm spot in my memory. That
was definitely memorable. They put on, I don't know what it was, a 14-minute women's match on like the second spot with 2 unknown women in West Virginia, and the crowd super got into it. I could get behind that one as well.
All right, I could go with either Shida versus Stat or Shida versus Shanna. Mike, you break the tie here for our consensus pick.
I think it's Shida versus Stat. That's right. That was the one I put out there, and I stick with my nomination there.
All right, moving on to Men's Wrestler of the Year. I'm going to go first. We'll just go around in a circle here. I'm going to go easy here. It's Cody. He's the ace of the promotion. He's had all the best matches in the promotion. Every one of his matches, at least like the big pay-per-view matches, or I was going to say big matches on Dynamite, but he hasn't really had those, have been wonderful. I know the other obvious choice is Jericho, but I think that's for other reasons. Cody in ring has been untouchable in this promotion.
Yeah, I'll do mine. Number 2 is Jericho. He was my number 1 pick on Omakase. He's the biggest star on the promotion. He delivers in every single segment that he's in. His segments on TV draw the biggest interest and add the most viewers. He has delivered in the ring beyond maybe expectations, like the Cody match, the Darby match, the Page and Omega matches were pretty good. Tags with Guevara have been pretty entertaining, and he just has legitimized a whole bunch of guys in this promotion right off the bat. And you just, have to love him, Chris Jericho.
All right, so y'all took what I feel like were the obvious front runners off the board for me. So I could go with my heart and my virtue, and we know that would be Pac. We can go with the person that they should be developing, and whoever has been on the show, he's been a very strong positive force in Jon Moxley. We could talk about the person that's kind of been forgotten when you talk about the promotion, and at least in certain bubbles of the internet have gotten very, very tiresome talking about, and that's Kenny Omega. Or we could talk about the person that would be my top contender for overall wrestler of the year in Pac. But when I think about Pac, I think about him in Dragon Gate, not really here. I'm going to go for the absolute boy. I'm going to go for the guy that won't stop until he's underground. I think that Darby Allin has been someone that they've shown that it has a resiliency to inactivity, which is, I think, is a big thing that I think a promotion like this has had issues with, is they take people off TV, and we've seen it with people like Private Party, and the crowd doesn't care about them as much. But whenever Darby shows up, the crowd goes insane. He's had at least 2 of the best TV matches that they've had. He had a fun brawl, a plunder brawl in Chicago. And I think that he's going to play an interesting role in this storyline going further with MJF and Cody and Butcher and the Blade. So I feel like that I'd be remiss if we did not involve the absolute boy Darby Allin and just kind of clear the board of our obvious picks. I think we have 3 kind of obvious like B contenders. You could also talk about Hangman Page here for our consensus pick, but I don't have a leading person here, so I'm going to open the floor up to y'all.
It's got to be Jon Moxley. Easy pick for me is the consensus. He delivers in big matches, comes off as a huge star, entertaining promos. They put him out in squash matches on TV, and the crowd goes wild. He, makes entrances on TV, and the crowd goes wild. A little loath to put a third ex-WWE guy on here. I feel like it's a little unfair to maybe Kenny Omega and the appeal that he brings to the promotion. But just in terms of how much they've been featured and how much they've been highlighted in this promotion, I think it's got to be Moxley.
I can get on board with that. I could have also gotten on board with Pac, but I don't want to get Mike too riled up. So I'll go with Moxley. That's good.
You see, that's a strategic way, because you knew if I was the tiebreak, I would go for Pac, right?
Right.
Which I understand that. I do think that Moxley's the other person deserving consideration, though. So I think that's a consensus. So there we go.
All right. Women's Wrestler of the Year. Nate, it's your turn to go first. Who you got?
All right. Women's Wrestler of the Year. Well, let's see. I guess I'm gonna again stay true to the format and pick the top woman in the promotion, the champion, the most heavily pushed, and probably the one that's attracted the most fan support to this point. That, of course, being Riho.
Yeah, that's an obvious number one. I think we got to get the board clear there. And this is where it becomes difficult, right, AB? Like, there is a clear number one, I feel like, in this category. And then you can talk about people who've been featured but aren't necessarily stars in the way we're seeing it, like Britt Baker and Emi Sakura. We have Chris Statlander, who's listed twice in the category. We got Nyla Rose, who was a big figure, and then now they found out a way to kind of write her off for a little bit. And then Hikaru Shida. I feel like that I'd be remiss that and I've kind of played devil's advocate with her, because she's been such a kind of a person of relevance on the show. And if we're going to tell the story of AEW, you have to include Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. So I feel like that we have to have her as a nominee here. Don't feel necessarily.
What a pick from Mike. I love it.
Wow.
I'm big about telling the story here. I mean, you can't tell the story.
I appreciate that you're bringing a clear methodology to your picks.
Same. Well, I'm going to go Nyla Rose. She was so important to the early part of this promotion. All the preseason stuff, Nyla Rose was a huge part of. And then obviously in the first title match, and then she got kind of forgotten for a little bit, but brought back to do some story stuff. And she also, no matter what a small number of idiots said, she was great every time she was in the ring. All her matches were very good, enjoyable. So, yeah, it's Nyla Rose for me.
All right, I'll throw out a name for the consensus one. Basically the same rationale as I brought to the women's match discussion. We got to get some Hikaru Shida in there. I think she's the, Frijo's the 1A in terms of new acts that have gotten established and gotten over here, especially with unknown audiences. I think Hikaru Shida's got to be the 1B.
Yeah, I'll make an argument for Chris Statlander, even though she's had literally 3 matches in the promotion. And it's just because she's come on like a lion. She is dominating so far. She is something different that they didn't have, and her matches have been really good so far. I'm not sure she's been here long enough to really include her in a Wrestler of the Year category. But I think you're right. Shida is the answer. But the only other person I would probably consider here is Statlander.
I feel like that I could throw a total curveball and have this talk about Emi Sakura right here about the fact of that one of the larger TV storylines that happened, even though it wasn't really promoted very well, was the student versus teacher Emi Sakura and Riho match at Full Gear. But that would be intellectually dishonest of me. I think it has to be Hikaru Shida for the consensus pick.
All right. Love it. Okay. Moving right along. Tag team of the year, and it's Mike's turn. So
yeah, baby.
Trying to think who I think Mike is going to nominate first here.
All right.
There's not a Dragon Gate team.
I mean, sadly, like as much as I would love to put Strong Hearts on here, they've only had 3 matches in the promotion, so I couldn't in any sort of mind do that,
Did see Lindemann was tweeting about some upcoming dates, though, so maybe he's coming back in the new year.
Yeah, there's a lot of OWE stuff that's kind of closing up this week, and there's a good chance that they are going to be based in the West to start off 2020 from what I've seen. So that's not necessarily news for 2020. That could be something really exciting, though. I think the Tag Team of the Year is Proud and Powerful, and here's why. I think that ever since they've been involved, they have been the focal point of the division. They came in as huge stars at All Out when they came in wearing the Dead President's masks, pulling a Point Break at the end of the Escalera de la Muerte match. And then ever since then, they've just been absolute stars. They were very well protected as a tag team, and they showed their versatility in being able to do sprint matches, be able to do traditional kind of Southern style, Crockett style tag team matches, and then doing fucking brawls. I mean, that's kind of become the big trademark, was like ending with that guerrilla warfare match to end the year in Dallas. So I feel like that the Proud and Powerful, I think that not only are they the tag team of 2019, I think they'll be the tag team of 2020 in AEW. So next time we do the Bucky Awards, I feel like that they will be the...
Yeah, we're vetoing the name for sure.
I mean, if Aaron's going to try to make Thicker like a Snicker into a thing, I'm going to try to make the Buckies into a thing.
No, veto.
It's actually a thing. My thing's a thing already.
No, it's not a thing. It's absolutely nothing. It's terrible.
They said it on, what did I say they say it on? Hollywood Handbook? I heard it somewhere on a podcast. Yeah.
See, it's a thing.
Probably big time.
I made it a thing.
I'm not
listen to this podcast.
Hey, I think that if you're going to count anything that has the guy from Joe Schmo Show on it as justification as something becoming a thing, I think it instantly does not become a thing.
Yeah, it turns out it's a thing. Nate, Tag Team of the Year, buddy. What you got?
Young Bucks.
Yeah, that's an obvious one. I mean, we can't leave out SCU. They won the very first tag team tournament. They've been a big focal point. So it's they haven't always, or more recently, they haven't delivered as much, but they were pretty good early on. So I'm going to go SCU.
All right. I think the honest pick for the last spot is Lucha Brothers. Any dissenters? Any other nominees?
I would put one up.
Argue otherwise.
I think that we should consider Private Party, just because
one match.
They had the 3-way match at Full Gear that they were part of. Like, they weren't necessarily huge stars, but I mean, if we're talking about who should also be in consideration, it's them. But it's Lucha Brothers.
All right, Lucha Brothers are the win. Show of the year. You can't come on this show several times and call Double or Nothing the best American pay-per-view of all time and then vote for something else. So I'm going with that. It had Cody Dustin, the match of the year. It had the three-way that was our first pick in the women's match of the year. It had a lot of really good stuff underneath. And then it still had some pretty good stuff on top that wasn't maybe, like Bucks Lucha Bros, maybe it wasn't my favorite thing, but it was still very good. So everything on here was good at a minimum, and a lot of it was really great. So it's double or nothing for me.
I think that. All right, I think there was a episode of Dynamite from Boston that was an incredibly fun show. I'm going to read off the show, and I think it's the best episode of TV they've had, and I think it's probably better than anything they've had since preseason. It just was a good, solid program. It had on it the Young Bucks versus Private Party match, which was superlative. It had a Emi Sakura, B. Priestley versus Riho and Britt Baker, which probably was Britt Baker's best match in this promotion so far. Like calling a spade, like that one was great. And then it had this incredible tag match of Dustin Rhodes and Hangman Page versus Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. And I feel like that match deserves consideration. So my show of the year is the 10-9 Boston show of Dynamite.
All right. I've got two in mind here, and I don't know which one is going to be more popular in the consensus and which one is a little less popular for consensus. So I guess I'm going to go with the one further down on our short list just because it was thought of second. So I'm going to go with Fyter Fest from June. Had the headlining match of Moxley versus Janela in the unsanctioned match. Had a fun a fun six-man tag match with the Elite versus Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid. Had the Cody and Darby time limit draw, which was a nice introduction to Darby. And then, of course, it had that Riho, Nyla Rose, and Yuka Sakazaki women's match earlier on the card. Also, the infinitely memorable Jabali match on the pre-show. Can't forget about that. So I'm going to go with Fyter Fest.
All right, that's reasonable. I think for the consensus pick, I got to throw All Out in there. I mean, it had the Lucha Bros Young Bucks match we talked about. It had Cody Shawn Spears, which maybe I was the high guy on, but it had the Arn Anderson run-in that made me lose my fucking mind in the Sears Center.
If it wasn't for this run-in, would you be thinking about this match whatsoever?
Yeah, I really like this match, to be honest.
Okay.
I think I called it very Ohio Valley Wrestling is what I said.
Yeah. See, the thing with Cody matches is if you are invested...
I don't consider it a Cody match.
It's a Cody match. If you're invested in Cody...
It's a 10-guy match.
And you want to see him win, then he builds the matches to that. He builds them to where you can watch it like a sport and be like, fuck, this guy's going to lose. Even if he's doing weird things that otherwise you might not like, I can really easily find a way to enjoy them in Cody matches.
He has real Danny Davis arena hours matches. So I get why you'd like that, as OVW was based in Louisville, Kentucky. So I get that.
So, you're valid for liking that match, Aaron, but
thank you.
The other unpicked show here is Full Gear, which has a much better Cody match on it. It's got Cody versus Chris Jericho on Full Gear. It's got the super awesome straight ahead tag match with Santana Ortiz versus the Young Bucks is your opener. And then Adam Page and Pac have their best match in the promotion against each other right after it. Since you're a big Shawn Spears fan, he's third on the card, so got to throw that in there. And then, you get Riho and Emi Sakura have a match that a lot of people liked. And then, of course, you get that great Jericho match with Cody and the lights out match that a lot of people really loved with Kenny and Moxley. So I got to go with Full Gear as my pick for the consensus pick. Certainly, I think better than All Out. And I went to All Out.
Well, if I'm doing we were all there. If I'm doing a tiebreaker between All Out and Full Gear, the Full Gear main event was better than the All Out main event.
Yeah.
So I could go with Full Gear.
I think All Out, I think we've talked a lot about the positives about these two, but All Out had the dead arena of Dark Order versus Best Friends, that the arena was completely dead until we had Orange Cassidy's debut there. And then Full Gear, I'm looking at it, you had Britt Baker versus B. Priestley during the buy-in. The crowd was pretty dead there. Shawn Spears versus Joey Janela.
I thought the crowd was pretty all right for that Britt Baker versus B. Priestley match. And that was a match also. Yeah, I distinctly remember thinking, oh wow, the crowd's pretty hot for Britt Baker here as she's walking down the ramp.
And
That's
then
my takeaway moment from that match.
and then Sean Spears versus Joey Janela. Like that was an absolute waste of time on that card.
Yeah, not a big fan of that feud in general.
Yeah, so I think if we're going to talk about the positives, we're talk about the negatives. I don't want to do in-person bias, but I feel like it's all out. But at the same time, Full Gear, the main event of Full Gear, even though I'm not a huge fan of that match, was much better than the world title match, I want to say. So I'm 50-50, guys.
The main event of Full Gear was Chris Jericho versus Cody, just for the record.
Okay. So you're doing that bullshit. Okay. All right.
Still
No, I
better
really
than
believe
the
that.
main. Still better than the main event of All Out. Either way, Full Gear had two main events that were better than the main event of All Out.
I agree.
I think you're talking me into Full Gear.
Full
It's
Gear.
Full Gear. Yeah.
All right.
Guys, we're great at this. We're great at collaborating and coming to a consensus. Like this has been a great time so far. I just wanted to get that out there.
I'm having fun.
We're having a great time. I just love you so much, and I'm just fired up to collaborate on some content.
It really sounds like that I am like a WeWork bullshit guy who just took a whole bunch of Molly and is just kicking in, doesn't it?
No, Mike, I've never thought that about you as we did this show. When the Molly kicks in, that's never occurred to me with Iron Mike Spears. Maybe next episode.
Yeah, his solo light show is going to be just Mike tripping balls.
Mike's refusing to engage with us on this for whatever reason. I thought we were collaborating, Mike. I thought we were having a good time, Mike.
It's because I'm laughing and I feel like I make bad audio if you just hear me laughing the entire time.
See, I sometimes unmute just so the fans can hear me laugh. I feel like
people love laughter.
Yeah, laughter's good for everybody. Okay. Feud/storyline of the year. And Nate, it's your turn to go first. So lead us off.
Okay. Best built feud in this company to this point started on the earliest episodes of Road 2, culminated in a big main event pay-per-view match. Cody versus Chris Jericho.
That's solid. It was their first true title feud that was built to anything.
It also had the very best
Cody
segments
promo
on Dynamite.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, two of the best because you also had the forming of the Inner Circle as well. Like that was also
segments. Plural.
Great segments. Great segments. I'm going to go with the thing that they built up with, had a very kind of frustrating route through it, but I feel like I'd be dishonest if we did not have this as a nominee. So I'm completely chucking my personal nomination to the ground here and picking something that was not my favorite feud, but I feel like it should be noted, and I don't feel like it would be noted if we did not do it this way, and that is Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley.
Wow, did not expect that.
Because at least when it got there, it felt finite. It felt like it should be the capper match there. We can't say that there was not a definitive winner and loser in that feud, and has given the winner some elevation and the loser something to kind of try to claw back from. So I feel like that deserves to be nominated here.
Can't argue with it. Good rationale.
Man, I don't know. There's lots of stuff I like left over, but nothing left that really blew me away as far as build. So it's tough for me. But I think I'm going to go with Cody and Dustin. The build was sometimes confusing in that it felt like each guy was building a different match at times. But the fact that they brought it together in such a compelling and satisfying way in the match means that the build was good. So Cody Dustin.
Yeah, and I think that when they got to the final point, when they got to the match there, it was a excellent example of storytelling. I feel like that we had two different perspectives, which makes sense that the two people would have two different ways of looking at the match. And I think that's a very valuable way of looking at it. So the feud that I feel like that really encapsulated a lot this year was Young Bucks versus Santana Ortiz. And I'm going to throw that out there as our first one to talk about as the consensus pick, because this was something that started it all out, came to a conclusion really in Dallas, and it took us through some beats. There was something that was always kind of happening on TV, and they always were raising the stakes. We had the huge backstage fight. We had the traditional Southern style tag at Full Gear. Then we finally had the outright war that ended it at the Dynamite Dallas show. So I feel like that should be something that we consider for our consensus pick. And I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it before.
That's my pick. You got the Rock and Roll Express in there. You have Santana and Ortiz being consistently entertaining, whether it be in the ring, on promos, in Twitter videos, on BTE, whatever the case is. They just showed up big time in every segment they did, building this feud. So yeah, I'm totally behind that one.
All right, I'm not going to argue if we already got 2 votes for it. Let's go. You sold me, Nate, by reminding me that the Rock and Roll Express was involved.
There you go.
Best on interviews. Mike, it's your turn, buddy. Who was the best on interviews this year?
Oh, it's Cody, hands down.
Cody, huh?
Yeah. I mean, come on. He did the best pre-tapes. He did the best in-ring promos. He did the best, Road to promos. He showed both comedy and he showed both humanity. I feel like that he kind of is the most well fleshed out person in all elite wrestling, and it's because of his promos. So it's got to be Cody, guys. Come on.
Well, yeah, he's had 2 matches on TV. So, Nate,
very hard to pick one for this category, I think, because this was one of these categories where we started going down our short list and kept leaving really good promos out. And then kept going, oh, yeah, there's a lot to like in this promotion. You forget how much good stuff there is, trying to limit yourself to 4 choices. I think my pick is going to be, so my heart kind of wants to go with Moxley, but I'm going to put that to the side for the moment because a lot of his best promos were not on television or on pay-per-view. They were on Twitter or on a Road to, or they were on New Japan World. So I'm going to pick MJF for being the guy who most announced himself onto the scene of great promos. Obviously, people that were following him on the indies have known that he's extremely confident with the microphone. His material is, at least solid and occasionally fantastic. So I'm going to pick MJF as the great heel promo.
Well, I wanted to go buck wild here, but nobody's chosen fucking Chris Jericho, who revitalized the TV wrestling promo with the Inner Circle promo and just cannot be forgotten. So easy Chris Jericho for me.
All right, now here comes the hard part. I don't know who we should consider for this 4th pick. I would say that Brandy has been very mixed. She's been good in her sit-down promos, but that's immediately kind of negated by her character work. That's been very uneven. Jon Moxley would be the best on promos if he was given a microphone for 5 minutes each week, but that's not been the case. And Pac, most of his stuff has been left to Twitter. So, and that's just unless we're going off the board here. Am I off base on any of these 3?
No, and this is a gender neutral award, but unfortunately they don't have a lot of women that have been given straight ahead promo time. Britt had some features on Road to, Riho and Nyla obviously had big segments on Road to that I don't really think made television. And in Riho's case, it's a little difficult to tell because they're subtitled, but they're just sort of very, generic maxims about proving herself and, wanting to be the best and, overcoming her adversity, which of course is all bread and butter pro wrestling stuff, but nothing that is otherworldly. So, I mentioned him earlier. I think Moxley is my pick for the guy who we know has the talent on the mic, even if he hasn't, exercised it in great regularity on the product.
Yeah, I just can't think of a great Jon Moxley promo in this promotion.
The one in his weight room that he taped in his weight room on Janela was, I think, maybe my favorite one.
Yeah.
There was the one after the match was made between him and Omega becoming non-sanctioned when like he got into the ring afterwards and was like, Turner, this is all on your hands, which is kind of by the books, but it's probably like his best on air, like straight down the barrel promo. So
You want to throw Janela out there? Janela's had a couple.
he has
Again, all not on television, but a lot of good backstage B-roll stuff.
maybe Tully.
No, can't see it.
It's tough. This one might be the hardest one for consensus because I would really like to nominate Brandy, but I can't get beyond the fact of like how uneven her promos have been. Like she did some really great stuff, like talking about like Cody and then talking about like the lead up to her Alley match, which immediately became uneven because she brought out Awesome Kong and that was weird. Like, oh, this is tough. Like, I feel like almost we had to say John Moxley just for the sake of we'll go around in circles and say we don't know. But I hate John Moxley as a consensus point when he hasn't had the space there, but we know he has it.
I like him as a consistent pick.
I'll go along with everybody, but of the people left, Brandy's promo in the Cody Road 2 and the build to Cody Dustin is the best promo of anybody left.
Yeah.
Not a bad point.
Yeah.
Let's do Brandy. You want to do Brandy?
Yeah, let's do
Brandy. Let's do it.
I mean, I was leading Brandy until I started contradicting myself. So
Brandy should stick to that Road 2 stuff and stay away from the just hair cutting monologues about whatever the fuck.
Just stay away from Dr. Luther. He doesn't seem like a trustworthy guy.
All right, best on Twitter, and somehow it's my turn. I'm going to pass. Nate, best on Twitter.
Hangman Page.
Yeah.
It's very hard to describe how someone is particularly good on Twitter. It's a lot of feel. It's a lot of picking your spots, not taking it too seriously, but, making a little pointed joke on some point or another. Hangman Page, very consistent on Twitter.
Can I tell y'all what Pac did on Twitter this year? And I think it was a really funny thing and why I'm going to nominate Pac. He posted a photo of him right after like working out where he looks absolutely shredded. Like he hasn't seen a carb in the last 10 years. And everyone thought he was on steroids. And then he posted another photo of him saying that he was completely drug free. And he looked even more shredded in the photo. And he had like a 18-inch waist. Like he's not on Twitter a lot, but I feel like the big thing about Twitter is you're either on it too much and dilute yourself, or you pick your shots. You're like a big time puncher and you do it that way. I also look at the other people in this category, and if we nominate any one of them, it's going to overly weight this category and it's going to ruin the category and they'll run away with the award. So I'm going back.
Okay, but you can't use the rationale. Some of these people are too good at Twitter to be nominated for the Good at Twitter award. That's what you just did.
No, I'm saying that they have influenced the internet hive mind so much that they think they're so good at Twitter that they.
Okay, we're talking about Chuck Taylor, and he's very good at Twitter. He has to be the consistent.
Is he? I mean, he deletes his tweets. I feel like that's a coward
because he's
way.
good at Twitter. No, it's a smart way.
Hold on, I haven't made my pick yet. Hold on. I've got a pick now. I passed, but now I've got a pick. Easy pick, actually. Easily the best person at AEW on Twitter. It's Sonny Kiss, folks.
Oh,
that's a good one. That is a very good one.
Limp Bizkit tweets.
Limp Bizkit tweets.
Yes, Sonny is so good at Twitter.
Fuck yeah, Sonny Kiss is great at Twitter. Yeah,
read Sonny Kiss's timeline. He rules.
Yeah, like seriously, like that's the dark horse best person on Twitter. That's an excellent pull there.
Thank you. Yeah, I can see going with Chuck as the consensus pick, though. Of course,
he's got to be. He's the only one that like genuinely makes me laugh.
I mean, Joey Janela, we could try to do this as a way about him banning us.
Yeah, Joey Janela would be in contention, but he's banned from contention due to having blocked us on Twitter.
Yes, we'd be happy to have you back in consideration next year, Joey, should you unblock us. Okay, breakout star. I'll go first since I just didn't go first on the last one. It's hard to decide which of my brands to go with here. Because, real Evolve Potheads would think I'm going to go Darby. Real EE Potheads would think I'm going to go Riho. I got to go Darby. I got to go with Darby. He is a longtime favorite. As Darby rightfully pointed out, nobody watched Evolve, so they didn't know that he existed. He's got the fucking mesh shirts showing his nipples because he's a star. So you got to love that. He's got the best entrance music. Well, I know Wikiphase listens, but it's hard to compare Judas and Darby's theme. So I don't know. He's got one of the two best entrance songs in the promotion. It's Darby Allin, folks. He's going to be a big star in this promotion.
Okay. I'll pick Riho. Top women in the promotion, was wrestling and got to move in front of 20 people or whatever. And that translated to this giant cable television stage. It immediately attracted ride or die stands. So you just got to give it up for drawing ability like that. Riho.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah. Okay. I'm going Chris Statlander just because we've only seen what I feel like Chris Statlander can be. I feel like that she's come on, and even though she was like a televised jobber for like 2 weeks, she's become like such a force and a central person of the show. I feel like that there's some things that they need to kind of work out with her, but I feel like that she definitely is a breakout star. And I feel like that we were going to talk about 2020, but we decided not to. But if we were going to talk about 2020 more thoroughly, we're going to have to talk about Chris Stat. So definitely her. So there we go.
Nate, buddy, you got to make your choice now.
I just picked Riho already.
Oh, yeah. Fuck. We got to come up with a consensus pick.
It's taking this long for this to go completely to shit.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if Santana or Ortiz qualify. They've been on national television before.
Yeah.
But it was TNA, so nobody was watching it also.
It was mostly on like that weird, like not outdoor network too.
That's one. Private Party, a Mike favorite, obviously. We just had QT Marshall.
Right?
Yeah, I don't like him that much though.
How
about
we're forgetting about another one?
Okay, well,
the motherfucking Butcher, the motherfucking Blade, and the motherfucking Bunny.
I was gonna say Wardlow. We're forgetting about Wardlow. He hasn't wrestled yet, but his impact has been, gigantic.
I'm saving
Wardlow. A lot of cards on the table here. Okay, that's fair. I think I would argue either Private Party or Santana Ortiz over Luchasaurus, just because I enjoy them more.
Yeah, I think I'm going Santana Ortiz because
I think Jungle Boy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think Jungle Boy is the standout. Yeah, but TNA it barely counts. I think Jungle Boy is the standout of the Jurassic Express act, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, but Luchasaurus has gotten the biggest pops. Come on, it's true.
Luchasaurus can also barely walk now.
I don't know. I don't feel strongly about this.
Okay, so Private Party versus Santana Ortiz versus someone from Jurassic Express.
I guess we could put Jurassic Express together as a unit. They are a tag team.
Yeah, we could.
And call them the breakout act. I would feel better.
Jungle Boy's going to win this next year.
Yeah.
That's why we should be ahead of the curve and say, yeah, we knew he was going to be the breakout star fucking year one.
Okay, then let's be super smart and let's go Jungle Boy. Let's be.
I say put them together with Luchasaurus and just say Jurassic Express is the breakout act.
I feel like that's half-assing it. Right. We said we could be above the curve.
It's being savvy about it.
Okay, fair enough.
We were going to put. They're a tag team. The other people we're talking about are Private Party and Santana Ortiz, who are also tag teams. It's fine.
Yep. Okay. Good consensus.
Okay.
We are making things work tonight.
We are. We got one last award. This is a name that was just come up with. The intangible of the year. Basically just any random shit that you really liked. Whose turn is it now to come up with one? All right, Mike, tell us your number one pick.
Motherfucking Wardlow Day. Because we were so excited about Wardlow. He did a random weightlifting promo at All Out. Didn't have jack shit about him for several months. Then he comes out, chokes Cody out with his tie, and it was motherfucking Wardlow Day. And now we know every Wednesday is motherfucking Wardlow Day. So Wardlow Day.
I put Wardlow. I think I coined Wardlow Day just because I asked if it was Wardlow Day in the poll on the day when Wardlow did in fact debut. I do wonder if Wardlow Day is cutting a little close to Rusev Day.
It's better.
It's certainly better, but we don't want to, make it sound like Wardlow is an imitation of Rusev.
I like that you first claimed credit for creating it and then questioned whether it was any good.
Well, it was, it wasn't an intentional thing. That was the way the poll announced itself to me. But great pick. I think Wardlow is. I'm also not married to the name for this category. We just couldn't think of, random wild card off the board thing that we want to put in a poll here. So any better names for this? Hit us up.
Yeah, this was something we were thinking up at 7:58 Eastern Standard Time as we were getting things together. So don't expect greatness here. Give us a better name.
Nate, are you just agreeing and picking Wardlow, or are you going to make a separate pick?
That'd be funny if we all just picked Wardlow. All right,
What's
I'm going to pick a separate pick.
What's stopping us?
My selection is going to be, it's going to be Excalibur in general. Job that Excalibur has done on commentary. Excalibur excitedly naming moves, and Tony Schiavone being shell-shocked and flabbergasted by the Mexican and Japanese names of these moves. Excalibur calling JR a okay boomer sooner. Excalibur yelling Tope Suicida all the time. Excalibur shouting out Lulu Pencil. It's got to be Excalibur.
This is very hard for me. You listed Darby's mesh shirt as a possibility, which, as everyone knows, I'm very fond of. I should have just said more about it during the when I said Darby was the breakout star, because now I was just thinking about Darby skateboarding to the ring in the build with Chris Jericho. That was very good. But I want to go way off the board here. My favorite random thing that happened in AEW this year. Well, I guess now there's a theme to some of my selections. The Sonny Kiss and Dustin tag team on AEW Dark.
Yes.
Which Nate perfectly, wonderfully coined Kiss and Makeup. It was so much fun. The MAGA Chud and Sonny Kiss hanging together was truly delightful. And basically, all our problems could be solved in this country if Sonny Kiss and Dustin were tag team champions. That's all I'm saying.
I also want to shout out Dustin. I noticed that he liked a Nyla Rose thirst trap the other day, and I was like, hell yeah. So I just want to shout out Dustin Rhodes in general for that.
Nice job.
All right. A tangible, I'm going off the board here. Chuck Taylor really wanting to say the word shit on TV because you're able to. I think that's a fun thing. I mean, it's fun to cuss. I love saying a cuss.
Any other
is fun.
We can name almost anything for our consensus pick. Any other just random things we want to pull out?
I think, damn, the whole world's our oyster, and I'm drawing a blank right here.
I don't know that this really fits, and we've already talked about it a little, but the crowd in West Virginia, I'm still really warm about. So
yeah, they fucking ruled.
They ruled. What else is just a really random thing that was a lot of fun?
How excited Yuka Sakazaki was at how large her slice of pizza was in Vegas. Did you all see that?
That's right. She's got on Twitter also. Yeah.
I mean,
they got to get her back.
There's apparently some. Yeah.
Here's just Aubrey Edwards in general.
Yeah.
Aubrey.
She's been good.
Yeah. Aubrey's great. I think I'd be okay with Aubrey. I feel like that the intangible of the year. I don't know. Also
a guy who doesn't get featured very much in strictly wrestling situations, but is hugely over, freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, but I feel like that's also.
Sure. There's a lot to like in this promotion.
There's a lot to like. The Dadcore High Flyer QT Marshall. Nothing amused me more and got us attention than the Dadcore High Flyer QT Marshall. Damn. This has been a fun year.
Yeah, this is again a lot of stuff that we've enjoyed.
We should have spent more time on this shit, probably.
Well,
on this episode.
we came up with it and then forgot to really get into it. I kind of personally, I think just to get a full diversity of roles in this one, I think picking a referee is interesting. So maybe Aubrey Edwards. Also, she's like I said after attending the shows, one of the top 5 most over acts on every one of these shows and gets a chance every time she's out there.
I've already chosen a MAGA Chud, but also Jake Hager never wrestling, as a bit.
Jake Hager's only word he said being sorry.
Yeah. Very good.
That's good too.
Very good. I can go with Aubrey. I can go with Aubrey. Yeah, I'm happy with Aubrey.
Let's go Aubrey.
All right.
Oh God, I forgot about fucking Virgil being in this promotion.
Virgil just showing
They
up.
gave Virgil a live mic.
Virgil, Chris Jericho's
Oh.
video. Chris Jericho's video just in general.
Oh yes. That was so good.
Man. Should we have like promo of the year before we go? Or are we we're running long. We're running long. So
Well, hard to come up
I
with.
dare anyone.
They're like all Cody ones.
I dare anyone to listen to this episode and say that we are too down on this promotion. Although I guess people usually say we like it too much. So more fodder for the haters. Yeah, it would be. I mean, the best two promos were the two Cody ones and the Jericho Inner Circle promo. IMO. Okay, that's our awards. Go on patreon.com/everythingelite, and we will get those up soon, and you can vote on them. Like I said, sub after the first of the year. You'll appreciate it, and you'll get all the content we've ever made. So very fun. And just because Nate and I are leaving doesn't mean we haven't, A, already recorded some things, B, that there won't be other fun guests showing up on the Patreon for the first 2 weeks of January. So a few more things before we get out. Mike, you have something to add on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things that we have recorded in the can is probably, with the exception of audio that I've recorded with y'all, my favorite thing that I've ever done that's going to be coming out. It'll be the first week of January. So there's one more thing, and then it's going to be your Dome preview, but the first week of January, we're coming out with a legitimate banger. So get strapped in for that.
Hard sell by Mike Spears.
Love the hard sell. All right, January 1st in Jacksonville, Florida. Mike will, of course, preview this in depth on AEW Light this coming week on Molly. So everybody look forward to that. But here's what's going to happen. MJF's going to reveal his stipulations for agreeing to a match with Cody. Jericho's going to try to get Mox to join the Inner Circle. He's got a surprise for him. We get Riho versus Chris Statlander for the AEW Women's World Championship. Cody versus Darby in a rematch from their time limit draw. And Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks will take on Pac and the Lucha Brothers. So a pretty stacked show for Jacksonville. Anything either of you are particularly looking forward to?
I think it's nice that they are bringing back that Pac and Lucha Brothers 6-man tag since they got changed last time. So, nice to eventually deliver on that match now that they're able to work with Pac.
So I've been in Florida for a lot of the last 2 months, but the weather has been really kind of awesome. So I'm excited to see them do the show outdoors at Dali's Place, which is this amphitheater that they're there for Fight for the Fallen. And it's 60 degrees out. There's a chance of rain because it's Florida. There's always a chance of rain. So I'm kind of stoked to see how this is going to look like on live TV and the overall impression of that. Matches that you mentioned. I mean, how can't you be excited about Cody versus the absolute boy, Darby Allin? I mean, that's going to rule.
Yeah, obviously, I'm looking forward to Riho versus Chris Statlander. I will not see that until I return to the country, but I am excited about it nonetheless. So, some other notes. AEW Revolution, the next pay-per-view, I want to say it's February 29th in Chicago at the Wintrust Arena. I'm coming up with this off my head, but I think it's right.
That's correct. It's where I saw it twice.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, it's sold out, folks. So I've been told on Twitter I'm supposed to take a victory lap, but I don't think I said this was going to sell out.
Yeah, I didn't get tickets. This is the first time I have not been able to get tickets.
Yeah, I did not attempt to get tickets, but, I'm excited that it sold out. A lot of people trying to put dirt on the grave of AEW very early. And they sell, I don't know, 6,000 or so tickets for this show. So good for them.
I mean, they're still way above the average that they said they needed to be to break even. They've yet to get under their ratings promise, so they've not had to do any ratings refunds for ads. Maybe it just seems like that ratings haven't been on a great trajectory, and they haven't been, but there's enough positive signifiers for the future. So, if it's too early. So, what's up?
All right. AEW also announced that their March 25 episode of Dynamite is going to be at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. The news here is just that that's a building WWE runs, and it's the first time that anyone has let them also book. I don't know if they were trying to book other buildings that WWE runs, but they booked this one.
Yeah, I think, and Cody also tweeted about, shout out to the arena for not engaging in politics and BS or whatever. The implication being WWE does try to get wrestling exclusivity on all the buildings that they run. So this is the first time that a arena has either not given them that, or maybe their deal with WWE expired in terms of future dates. But yeah, a little noteworthy in that way.
Yeah, the tri-state area is full of fucking arenas, so they weren't going to be able to have a hold on everything. So this makes sense. This is like this is where the Nets and the Devils used to play a long time ago. So I think that's pretty rad. I know a lot of people are saying, why aren't they going to New York? Why are they going to New York? Look, until they built the whole, before they built the Barclays Center, everyone was complaining about that for WWE not constantly running MSG and then running Nassau Coliseum. They always would run to the Prudential Center. So this is happening. So I mean, if you're going to act that way before, here you go again.
Also on the point of K-pop concerts and kiss and make up, this is where Blackpink and Dua Lipa performed together.
Wow.
Last year. Yeah, or this year. How
It's
about that?
an historic arena.
Mark it down.
There should be a banner.
Okay, banner, plaque, either one.
All right. Cody announced on Twitter that the win-loss records are going to be resetting in January. They fleshed that out a little more today. So the annual records will carry over, but they're going to reset. So basically, you'll have a lifetime rating, but a lifetime win-loss record, but then you get a new one, I suppose, each year going forward.
They should release all the data. They should release Mookie's spreadsheet with ELO scores on it.
ELO, let's get like match times. Let's get the success rates. Like, let's get it all out there. Yeah, this is what they did, what they announced. I think this is probably a fair thing to do. I think it'll make things very interesting for folks like Shima and Jungle Boy, who had very low records. So I think that's pretty cool. Also, this for people that they've done a lot of work at making their records look a lot better, like Britt Baker and Chris Statlander. It'll be interesting to see them now essentially be at 0-0. So that's cool. I think this is important stuff to have out there in the open. They've said this before. Now, please give us some like justification for some of your rankings, please.
Actually, don't, because it gives Mike and I something to just run our mouths about on the Patreon. So I appreciate it, actually.
That's fair. The spear system is absolute.
All right. Chris Jericho is taking on Hiroshi Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom. Nate and I and Aaron P. Taub will be in the building for that. Tanahashi said recently if he wins, he's going to ask Jericho for an AEW world title shot. I expect that Nate and I will discuss this more on our Wrestle Kingdom preview, but I thought it was at least worth mentioning here. Okay, great. Nobody has any thoughts about that. A note from the Observer that I think is important, just because we talk about ratings every week. When you add the DVR ratings to the live audience, AEW is drawing about 1.3 to 1.4 million each week, which is basically what they did their first week of TV. Do we think that they haven't really lost or gained much? It's pretty much the same folks who tuned in week one, but people have realized that you don't have to watch it live.
Yes, and I don't know if I've totally vocalized this theory previously, but I also expect that some of the variation in NXT winning sometimes is just people that watch both the pro wrestling shows decide which one to watch live and which one to DVR on a week-to-week basis. And by theory that's tied to that is that AEW viewers are pro wrestling fans and NXT resembles pro wrestling, whereas, hardcore NXT fans are just McMahon fans. They won't, dare to step outside of their McMahon bubble. But that makes sense to some degree. I mean, we don't know, I guess, if there were a lot of DVR viewers for that premiere episode, maybe with DVR viewers, they were even higher. So maybe we lost some viewers in that regard, but it was also the first show. So more likely than not, if you were a pro wrestling fan and interested in it, you really wanted to see that first show live.
Yeah, I think what all Nate says is pretty salient here. I feel like that this kind of relates into something that you see in radio ratings where you rank people by their priority on who they're listening to as their first priority, their second priority, and so forth. And I think we discover that wrestling, by and large, is not a priority one field. I mean, we've seen that with the whole entire wrestling rating landscape. Unless it feels like something that needs to be watched live, as in a live sport, we're not seeing it. And I think that's something that's going to adversely affect the entire wrestling landscape the next time that rates fees come through, and as we see more splintering towards the cable / over-the-top networks. So that's something to think of. I mean, the big thing here, I feel like, is now that we see this data, the advertisers, which is the primary income source, is going to have to find a way to convert these people that they don't get the high payments for because the DVR over to live viewing, because that's where the money is. So I think that's the big thing to take from this. I mean, there'll be some people that would spin this as a total loss. I think that this is interesting, but not what I would call discouraging.
Yeah, I think one of my big takes when we were talking early on this show, by the way, this is episode 52, so it's not quite a year, but a full year's worth of content at least. When we were first discussing like where they were going to go, what the ratings would look like, it's just, wrestling is not, what's the word I'm trying to find here? It's not similar really to live sports. It's not comparable to live sports, even though that's the way it's sold, or the way it's being sold right now, as Mike was saying. Except for like Nate, nobody else really feels the compulsion to always watch wrestling live. So it's not surprising to me that this happens to be true, especially I think what Nate's saying is right, that people kind of choose back and forth which one they're going to watch. But AEW has to either figure out a way to make their wrestling live viewing, that you have to see it live, or convert more of those people into ticket buying fans at the gate, which we haven't seen the gates really rise since they've been on TV.
Yeah, I will say if AEW wants to convert DVR viewers to live viewers, they should point them toward our podcast. I'll make the case why you should only watch wrestling live, and that'll translate into bigger dollars in TK's pockets.
And then give us some money too.
Right. Subscribe to the $8 tier on Patreon, Tony.
Yes, please. Speaking of the $8 tier on Patreon, I want to shout out some of our $8 patrons. We appreciate your patronage very much. So I wanted to give you a shout out. I had everybody listed here. The guys have suggested that I should do first names only. So I'm going to do that. If you happen to be one of these people and you say, I really want a full name shout out, hit me up. I'll give you a full name shout out on this show. But thank you to Anthony, Christian, Daniel, Danny, Darren, a lot of similar names, Jamie, Jennifer, Kyle, Street Fight Radio, I'll say all of that one, and Wayne. Big fans of all those folks who are some of our $8 patrons. I'm probably going to do some shout outs to other patrons in the future, just as a little extra thing to express our gratitude for the folks who have been subscribing to our content. We appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun creating new content, additional content. And thank you all for, helping us get that done. So I think that's it for this week. You guys have anything else you want to talk about?
No.
No, I will not be on Molly when we do these future shows. Sorry.
It's lying. It's a lie.
Yeah. Molly Mike Spears 2020 brand.
No. I still need to figure that out, but I think I'm going with Mountain Man Hunk versus Molly Adventurer. I guess Psychonaut.
You can do Molly on a mountain. Just be Mountain Man Molly Mike.
No, please don't, Mike. That scares me.
Molly Mountain Man with a machete, Mike Spears.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now, these plugs are going to be really important, okay? Add everything AEW. But remember these. Add Aaron Like the Car, add Epitasis, add Fujiheya. If you're not following Nate and me on Twitter, you're going to not hear from us for 2 weeks. So keep that in mind. You're going to want to also follow AP Taub and get his dispatches from Japan. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast because the show will still be coming out the next 2 weeks. Don't forget that. Give us a rating and review. Hopefully there'll be a stockpile of ratings and reviews for Nate to read for us when we get back. And as always, don't forget about patreon.com/everythingelite. So I will see you all in about 3 weeks, Nate as well. So until then, For Mike, for Nate, I'm Aaron. We'll see you then.